Welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. We discuss real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and business to help you retire and become financially free. Make sure you share this podcast with someone who could benefit from it and leave us a 5-star review. It truly helps me out. This show will mentor you towards financial freedom. If I can do it, so can you.
Welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Kearns. Today we've got a very special guests. We've got Megan and Jesse Walters out of Columbia, Missouri. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, how'd you guys meet?
It was very romantic.
No.
Was it?
No, it was at a bar.
We met at a bar.
Did you really?
My
Yeah.
mom is the reason that we are together. So he was out with his friends. I was out for my mom's birthday. And I actually had a boyfriend. And my mom did not like my boyfriend at all.
Good mom?
Yes, very good mom. And he came up and started talking to me, and I said, no, I've got a boyfriend. And my mom stood there, and she's like, wait. And so he walked away. She pretty much followed him. And
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Oh.
And my mom had a couple to drink. It was her birthday, but she followed him, started talking to him about me. And she's like, yeah, she has a boyfriend, but mama don't like. And
Really?
so she's like, so just go try again. I'll warm her up. And so he came back, and my mom, I don't ever say what she actually told me that day, but she pretty much made it a point that said, Megan, you need to talk to him or I'm going to embarrass the living bejesus out of you in this bar. So I felt like I had to save him. And then him and I hung out for the rest of the night, and then the rest is history.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I met her and the mom the same night, so I broke the ice. Everything was
Yep.
fine.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate the next situation moving forward? How'd you pull the plug, I guess?
Yeah, it was already on the agenda to pull that. It just
So
gave
it was an
me,
unhappy relationship
Yes.
that you weren't happy, and your mom knew it.
Yes.
She says, hey, there's another guy here.
Yep.
Looks handsome. He's approaching you. Why are you hanging on to this one? I'm
Pretty
gonna
much.
help you. I'm gonna help you against yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. And so actually it was funny, the week prior my dad had made the comment, the longer that you're staying with somebody that you know you're not happy with, you're not going to meet the right one. And I said, well, the right one will come regardless of who I'm with. And then I met him a week later.
Yeah.
And that's been almost 10 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy too, and I think everybody's been with the wrong one at some
Yeah.
point in time, and you're like, and you know it, and you're like, okay, how do I get out of this thing? It's super hard to like do that sometimes
Yeah.
because you got time invested and you're like hoping things change, but generally
Yeah.
it's never going to change. And
No.
so
Right.
No, yep. So
that's actually, I met my wife right after I was dating the wrong one. And literally the reason I met her, I had tried to meet her before, and my friend wouldn't introduce us because she's like, you're not worthy. She's better than you. Like kind of that thing.
What
And
a good friend. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, okay. I was like, all right. She's like, you're a chowderhead. She's well-spoken. She's from New York. And then she hated the other girl so much that the minute I broke up with her, she introduced me to my wife, and we went on. And I thought I was going to go back to being a bachelor, And the next thing you know, I'm in a relationship and we get married.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So tell me a little bit about your guys' story, like how you guys like got into real estate and how that whole deal happened.
yeah, I'm trying to think of how to summarize that. Well, when we met, after I graduated college, we kind of I knew what I wanted to be in real estate in some capacity. Veterans United is a big company back in Columbia. They do loans for veterans. That's where everyone goes and works in Columbia, pretty much out of college.
Okay.
So I was going to be a loan officer.
Okay.
Took the class, went to pass the exam, failed it all 3 times by 1 point.
Really?
Yep. And so I had been scouted by a couple brokerages that they said, hey, you should be in real estate, because I used to work at a bar, and you should be in real estate, you should be a real estate agent. I was like, oh my gosh, no, I have $80,000 worth of student loan debt. Makes no sense. No one's going to buy from a 22-year-old or whatever it was, 23. And so VU was the safe bet. You had a salary. Failed the exam by 3 times. By the 3rd time, and he was with me all times, I said pretty much fuck it, went and took the real estate exam, and then passed that on my first try. And so for me, it was a big God thing of this is the route that you're supposed to go, though it's
Right.
very fearful.
Yeah.
And numerically it would make no sense to
Right.
do this.
Right.
So then that's how I jumped in at that time with real estate. At the same time, him and I were starting a coffee business, which is a whole other topic. But we essentially started real estate and a coffee business at the same time.
And got married.
All
the same.
Yeah,
and
let's do it.
That's
Let's
what we
go.
did. That was our 2017. And so then I pretty much just had to grind it out. I worked open houses every single weekend, like 4 every weekend.
So you're a hustler.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I could tell, like, that's why I brought you. I was like, she's a hustler.
Yeah.
If you're walking around 9 months doing open houses, showing it,
Yeah.
it's like you're a hustler.
I can't sit still. And so that was pretty much what I did is I had to just, I know they say fake it till you make it, but I mean, essentially I had to do the actions and just do the work to get to the business that I wanted. And year after year, it continued to grow. We grew the coffee business. We ended up selling it. And him and I were always business partners, so he always had his foot in the door with real estate, and I always had my foot in the door with coffee. But we both ran them independently. When we sold coffee, he ended up jumping in with me, and then, I mean, we've grown substantially. We're one of the top real estate teams in the Mid-Missouri area. And yeah, no, it's been a fun journey. It was a very God-driven thing because every fear that I had of I'm not gonna be able to get out of student loan debt, I'm not gonna be able to pay our mortgage. Like, we had no money. We were delivering bagels for like $25 every morning for the longest time, like at 4 a.m. just to pretty much get by. And we would rotate between the two of us just to do that. And we sold furniture. We just did like
Whatever it takes.
whatever it took just
Yeah.
to pretty much just like pay, because like my student loans were about $1,000 or something like that a month. And
It was another mortgage.
it was, yeah. And so we just did whatever we could to get by, and which was pretty much the fire under my ass. And then, yeah, I think after about 3 years, we got out of our student loan by flipping houses too.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So we.
What inspired you to flip the houses?
So I
bet,
kind of
yeah.
got into it in a random way when I was 18 years old. So I graduated high school in 08. So it was like right when all the crash was happening. It was like, go to college, even though the economy is failing, you know?
Yeah.
And there was a house for sale for like $12,000
Yeah.
in this little town outside where I grew up. And
What town?
the town was Blackwater, Missouri, is where I bought the house. But
Okay.
I had lived in Boonville, small, like
Oh, yeah.
small town.
I know about Boonville.
Yeah.
Daniel Boone.
Yeah, we got a casino, and that's usually how people know about us. But yeah, but anyway, yeah, I bought this house for $12,000. Like all I did was trash it out, and we put it back on the market, and we sold it for $25,000. That was like my first flip when I was like 18 years old.
Yeah.
And
So you were hooked.
so kinda like I liked that experience, but like at the same time I was going to college,
Right.
and I went through college, and I actually worked.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Columbia College in
Okay.
Columbia. Like I went to every college in Columbia except for Mizzou.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I went to a community college, then Columbia College, and then another smaller university there, and got my master's there. But yeah, I never went.
Where'd
to
you get
Mizzou.
your master's in?
Business, MBA. Yeah.
Okay. So definitely highly educated.
I guess you could say that. Yeah.
Do you regret going to college?
Yes.
yeah.
For me, it's a yes.
Yeah. Like.
Or do you regret what you went to college for? Because, like, if I was to go back, I would get my law degree.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
if I was to do my life over again, and I'm telling my kids, I'm like, if you want me to pay for college, you got to get your law degree. Otherwise, you're on your own. I pay
Yeah.
for my own college. You can pay for your own.
Yeah.
Unless you get your law degree.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We kind of say the same thing. Like, if it's a specialized degree, like I understand, but if it's a generic thing, there's no.
Yeah.
But-
I got mine in psych. I think I just regret the amount of money spent.
Right.
But at the same time, that experience is what taught me how to use money, because school doesn't teach you how to use money.
Okay.
Or at least mine didn't growing up.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know anything.
I don't know any schools that teach you that.
No, and so I didn't know money management. College taught me money and time management of having a puppy, how to pay for the puppy, then how to work, then how to do your homework. And that, I think, is probably, and then afterwards, how to get out of debt is what college taught me.
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
And it's so expensive, right?
Yeah.
And you went to Mizzou? And what does it cost to go to Mizzou? Because you're in state, right?
I had 1 year of out-of-state tuition at the University of Alabama. And
You
then,
went to Roll
yeah,
Tide?
Yep.
Wow.
Paid. That was pretty
That was a big
much.
student loan.
Was that for fun?
Yes. That was because I was tired of Columbia.
That would have been cool though.
It
You went to a
was.
bunch of games.
Yep. It was a great
I'm a big
experience.
SEC West fan.
Yeah. I think that one year was 60,000 of the 80,000
Okay.
of debt. And so after the first year, my parents warned me. They're like, "You can do this, but I don't think you realize." And then after the first year, when I realized what $60,000 was, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go home now." So I went back to Mizzou and graduated there. So
You can't trade that experience though.
no.
Right.
No, it was good. It made me appreciate what I had back home to be away from it for a year.
Yeah, for sure. So where are you guys at right now currently in your journey? Like, so you guys are like the number one sales team or up there?
Up there.
Up there.
I can't really confirm. I don't look at our stats.
You don't look at ours. Okay. But like, it's a smaller town. What's the population of Columbia?
100,000, 110,000 now with students.
And you guys are doing like new home construction. Aren't you getting a lot of business?
Yeah, so I work with a couple builders in town. So right now, like on the real estate side, we're at 104 houses sold this year and about 26
Wow.
million.
That's good.
And so, yeah, so
What was the goal?
100 houses and 23 million.
And do you have a team?
Yeah, so it's me, Jess, and then I've got another agent named Jasmine on our team as well.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
For especially a really small town.
Yeah.
Like 100, that's like top. Not a lot of people are selling those types of. What's the average home sales price?
I think we're right around like anywhere between probably about 400 now. Or is it 385?
It's like upper threes. Yeah.
Maybe
Oh wow, I was gonna
385.
guess like 250.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it
It
wasn't
used
that
to be.
long ago, but
Right.
it kind of went up.
It's gone up.
But, yeah.
I think we're about 385 now. Last
So,
month.
loving the real estate. Now you're investing in real. You're flipping as well. Are you buying rentals?
Yep,
Both.
we're doing both.
Okay. So tell me about the investment game. What's your goals there?
Yeah. So this year, like selling the coffee business, I had like a 2-year contract with them. That ended February this year. So I went really full time into investing after that point.
Okay.
So this year, we've flipped 4. I've got a 5th one under construction right now. We've purchased 2 duplexes and a single family as
Nice.
well. This in 2024. Yeah.
And what are you guys like aiming for? Are you guys going for nice or like working class for rentals?
Yeah, like my perspective of that changes all the time, and I'm sure with Meg too. But like I'm kind of playing real world Monopoly. Like I'm getting cash flowing stuff now, building up. I'm buying stuff like we built in equity.
Yeah. Okay.
And then as that builds, I can get enough equity in between all those properties. I'm probably 1031 into something bigger,
Okay.
nicer, things like that, and
Yeah.
keep going that route. But
So right now it's probably more working class though.
I would say
That's where the numbers make more sense.
All my stuff is in the what they would call the hood.
Yeah. I would say if you want to do the class thing, we're between a C and a B class usually.
I'm probably between a D and maybe a C minus. Which
Got it. Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that's what I started with, so I
Yeah.
just stuck
What's
with
where
it.
the cash flow is too.
Yeah.
Well,
Our
and
high-
upside too. I bought these properties for 30. That's what I moved to Missouri from Las Vegas, and I bought these houses for 30 grand, and they're all selling for 90 right now. And I made a lot of mistakes when I first moved here because we never dealt with basements or any of that other stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the bottom goes up too. What does they say? High tides raise all ships.
Right.
Yeah.
So, are you guys using like cost segregation to like reduce your taxes and stuff like that? Because selling how many millions of dollars in real estate, you're gonna have a big tax bill coming up.
Yeah. That's
That's pretty
the
much
biggest-
what he does.
Yeah. We went through multiple CPAs where we found one that will work with us in that sense. But yeah, we're doing a lot of cost segregation now.
If you need a great one, I've got what I would say. You know how everybody says their CPA is the best? Like my guy has been on our podcast multiple times. You can listen to him. He is literally the best. When that CARES Act passed, if you remember that was during the COVID thing. He called me up and he's like, hey, in that law, they slipped in this thing where you can take your cost segregation and carry it backwards to recapture all the money that you paid in 2019 and 2018 and 2007. So I got all the money that I had paid the 5 years previous in taxes back.
Dang.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he's really good too. So if you need a recommendation,
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
would definitely get like him. He's amazing.
No, I love it. Yeah, I've learned that's a full-time job. Just the real estate tax game is pretty crazy.
But you do the actual cost segregation.
Right now I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've found a site where I can build my own cost seg reports and stuff, and and yeah, my
If they're
CPA.
residential, you only have to pay like $300.
Yeah, it's not too. Yeah, all my stuff is like the biggest thing I own is a fourplex. So, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Those cost seg reports are, but they're
You're
huge.
an
tax
engineering guy.
I think I would have been in another world, yeah, for sure.
Is he?
That's the way my
Yeah.
brain works, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up on a farm, cattle farm. So like I learned how stuff works and and the breaking point of things too. I broke a lot of shit in my life, so I know those points where I'm like, okay, don't go past this line, and yeah.
So tell me about Jesse, about growing up on a cattle farm, because I saw something I think on social media the other day that were like, you should put your kids on a farm to work for a year, so they can appreciate everything. And I think that you get a good work ethic working on a farm.
I 100% agree, and you learn patience too, like because of that. Because like our farm didn't have the nice new equipment; it was older stuff that broke, and yeah, you learned a lot, like, and you learned how it worked and how to fix it. And if you go through the day saying like, all right, I'm gonna go bale this field up in hay that day. Well, if everything broke, you're going to the next day. You're working late that night. It's just like stuff doesn't go the way you want to, so like you have to work until the job gets done, and that's what it taught me.
Yeah.
And we carry that into real estate.
Yeah. Now, is there any farming in your future?
It's definitely still intertwined in my family. Yeah, like
Is it? Like, do you guys have like a family farm, or are you guys?
yeah. So I'm the fourth generation of the farm. So it's been around about 100 years now.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So my
Is
dad
it
and
like
my younger brother.
Is it like a big acreage and stuff like that?
Yeah, in Boonville, Missouri. Yeah, yeah. So it's half crop ground, which we mostly rent out now, and the other half is cattle, which is what I did. It was all cattle and
Talk to me
pasture.
about that. I'm so fast. So, grass fed versus corn fed. Like you want grass fed, don't you?
Yeah, it's a leaner meat as
For your health-wise.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, in that sense. I will say, like for us in Missouri, it's very seasonal. Like you can't feed them grass in January, so you've got to give them corn, things like that, keep them
Right.
going and stuff. So, but yeah, grass-fed cattle, I'm definitely going to go when it goes to your plate. But I will say corn-fed beef is still pretty tasty. But
I'm not discriminating. I'll eat either one of them,
Yeah.
right? But I'm just saying, like in terms of, because we're buying, like we never bought our own cattle until we moved out here, and I guess that's the thing that everybody does out here.
Yeah.
And it's awesome because like it lasted us 8 months. Like a half a cow lasted us 8 months. We went out to Sedalia to get the meat, but I think we're trying to buy it now from someone localer. But like they were talking about the grass fed versus the corn fed. I'm like, I don't know if it matters that much. Sure. So can we talk about like that as a business model? Can you break that down? Like, because I was like, how are these guys even making money?
cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah. To your point, like to someone in today's world, it's like, hey, I want to be a farmer today. Like it's almost impossible. It's like I have to go spend millions of dollars on land, on
Yeah.
equipment. It's like you almost have to be like raised in it to really get it going. Like to do it really successfully. Or you're a big farm buying up these smaller farms type thing.
Right.
But on our end, there's a lot of different ways to make money in the cattle market. But where we did it, we bred cattle, so we have cow calf pairs. But where we really turned numbers was stock cattle. So we would buy them around 400 pounds, beef them up to 800, which takes about a year, a little less than a year, and then sell them. So we're doubling the weight, selling them off, and rotating out.
But how much you gotta spend in like fuel to feed those?
Oh, we have our own gas fuel tanks of diesel fuel, things like that,
No, I mean like
Yeah.
on terms of, sorry, fuel is the wrong word. Like for the food, how much do you have to spend to get that cow up to that?
Oh yeah, like in the summer it's much easier with grass. We keep but it is still fertilizer. Keeping everything going in that sense. But like, I mean, yeah, like I'm trying to remember, like as far as like our expenses, like especially in the winter, like it can run pretty tight. Being a cattle farmer or crop farmer or anything, like you're kind of at God's will of like the weather, of how the market does, the corn market, everything. It's just like you're playing that game and
Yeah.
you're just crossing your fingers half the time.
Yeah, that's true. It's just
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so I noticed you guys have mentioned religion a lot and God a lot. Is that something that plays a part of like your guys' entire life and your culture and everything like that? I notice people with a high faith. It's something that I'm more getting connected to the older I got. I kind of went away from religion because my mom is Christian Scientist. I don't know if you're familiar with that religion. It's not Scientology.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
You know what it is?
Yeah, I broad view of it. I do know. Yeah, I know.
So
it's
they don't
different
believe
than
in
Scientology.
medicine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, as growing up with that, it's like, okay, this is weird. And so I kind of went away from it. But now, as I'm older, I'm drawn back to like trying to have a relationship with God. So I'm interested to hear your guys' perspective on that, because you brought that up several times, Megan.
Yeah. I was raised by an atheist and a pissed off ex-Mormon.
Okay.
So
Jack Mormon.
yeah, like she was Utah Mormon.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Idaho, Utah, that whole area. So she was ex-Mormon, pretty pissy with them. And my dad was very like he worked in like a nuclear engineer role. So very scientific and atheist. So that's what I grew up with. So for me, yeah, God and religion wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
He has his own story where he didn't really kind of grow up with the structure, dove into more of a legalistic through dating a girl, that they're the one and only church, broke away from that. And so when him and I kind of found each other, he had already refound God in his relationship and built that. And then I was like, no, like that's not a thing. So really, like my faith is driven by him having brought me to God.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and so he baptized me in, I don't know what year that was, 2018, I think. But and then really from there, I mean, it's just been shown in a lot of just our works and what we did. The coffee business had a whole charitable side where we tithed. We gave 10% of all the profits back to local places. So in a lot of the works like that, and then even just kind of like I said, having gone from like 22, 23 years old to a buttload of debt, and then jumping into like, we're going to start 2 businesses. Like
Yeah.
it just literally just at that time, it was just prayer upon prayer, and then seeing where we are today.
Do you guys like have a morning routine with that sort of thing?
We used to. I'll be honest, we're not great with it as of
no, it's
lately.
hard. Like
Yeah.
life gets distracting.
Yep.
Right. Especially as the businesses grow, things like
You always do it when you really need it.
Right.
Yep.
You know, like when my mom was having open heart surgery, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's something that's super important to build a habit on. But
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think especially in our journey now, we've gone, like Meg said, like we went from really having no money and a lot of debt to we're pretty financially stable now and buying rental properties, things like that, and really
Yeah.
growing it. Like looking at that journey, it's like we could not have done it without our faith. Like there's
Yeah.
no way. And like
No.
it was just to think like we're in the bottom and like at the top, it's like God was there that whole time. And you don't see it in the moment when you look back. It was just all in part of the plan.
Yeah. Like when we started, we couldn't pay like our bills, and all of a sudden just like something random like happened. Like, yeah, like selling like a clock, or like he did like some side gigs. Like a check would just all of a sudden come in, like when we were sitting there crying, going like, how are we going to pay this? How are we going to pay that? And then all of a sudden it was paid. Things like that.
so we got 2 hustlers though.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because iron sharpens iron, right? Like where she's great, you may not be. Where you're great, she may not be.
We joke he's the optimist, I'm the pessimist.
Oh, really?
And so from a standpoint of when it comes to like any kind of like decision makings in business, like he gets like super excited. He's like, yes, yes, yes. And I'm like, okay, how's this gonna just fuck up and like blow up in our faces? And so normally then we like talk it out, and wherever we meet in the middle, then it actually normally works really well.
My wife is the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say she just goes to the DDP as we call it, the deep dark place. Like we just brought these dogs in, and like dogs are territorial. My one dog got on top of the other dog, and then she's like, "Oh, they can't be. We got to take it back." And I'm like, "Let's give it 10 days."
Yeah.
And then 10
Yeah.
days, all of a sudden, they're best friends, and
Yeah.
we're good. But I understand that. I think that might be more of a, like, guys are used to carrying the stuff on their shoulders and just internalizing stress, and women kind of outwardly demonstrate it, I guess, a little bit more.
Yeah.
How do you guys, so in the real estate, you handle all of the clients, all the team, all of the customers, or are you intertwined in that too, Jesse?
She's definitely customer facing on that, and on social media, the videos, listings, all that stuff. I'm usually working in the back, like we joke I'm the sign boy. I'm always putting the signs out in the yards, and I got my truck with all the stuff.
You're the farm boy, man.
yeah.
I got an auger.
Yeah, like we get a random inspection notice and there's like a repair at this house, like I'm the one going there to fix it real quick.
So you
just
can
to
do
get
anything.
done. That's stretching it, but yes, I think I can do anything.
You can
until I
figure
get
out
there.
anything.
You
Correct.
can figure out.
Yeah, I will figure it
That's
out.
that farm boy.
Yeah, I will figure it
That
out.
is cool.
Just
yeah,
not-
you'd be the guy I'd want to be buddies with for
Yeah.
sure. Like you always want a buddy like Jesse. Somebody that's like, hey, I got this stuck. You're like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll come over and.
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
cool. I am not that guy for our family. My wife calls it the somebody else, the honey pay, not the honeydew, because I just, I do the basics. I can do the staining, but I get so frustrated just trying to think like a mechanical guy and like, I'm just like, you know what? I'm your landscaper. I'll mow the lawn. I'll do the planting of the other things, but the technical stuff, my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and that's where,
Yeah.
like social media, all that stuff. As you can tell, I don't really spend much time in that. I am not good at it. I don't understand it all. But you give me like a broken object in front of me, I'll figure out how to get it back together. Kind of thing.
Well, that was actually my next question is what got you into the social media?
Yeah. So it's a love-hate.
Oh, definitely, right?
It's a
Definitely.
love-hate. Because I hate that I know that sometimes it can appear like life's great and everything's awesome and that like it's always something that maybe you're not. So that's my hate towards it. But I also appreciate it and know it because I know that it's grown our sales to where they are. And it's created a lot of awesome connections with people. So that's where like my love-hate with it is. But really where I started diving into it more is 4 years ago. We went up to New York and there's an agent called Ryan Searhant out there.
Of course.
Yep. And I went to one of his masterminds.
Okay. So
and
he got you to do it.
he did, yeah. So I read his book, and in one of his books, he says, if you have any questions, just email me. And I'm the one where if you pretty much tell me that, I'm just going to email or call you.
Good.
So I emailed him, and I said, hey, I read your book. Yeah, I've got some questions. He's like, well, why don't you just come up to New York? And, you can come to this mastermind. We're having it here in about a month. And he's like, and I can answer your questions. And I said, all right. So bought a plane ticket, went up to New York. And that was really where it kind of like shaped my perspective of the ability that it could give you to grow your business. And again, like the connections. So that's where it really started.
He's an awesome guy. I was big into $1 Million Listing. That was when I was an agent and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I read Frederick Eklund's book.
I haven't read that one.
Yeah, you can pass.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I want to read Ryan's book.
Yeah.
I liked him most on the show. I felt he was the most real and the most hardworking, and they didn't show that as much.
Yeah.
They showed Frederick because he was just such a.
Yeah. No, if you look at his calendar, he'll say it. He'll like make all of his appointments are like 15 to 30 minutes long, and there's no really gaps in between it. And it's kind of like a hard stop, and he goes on to the next. And so like the time management, that's how I learned how to do time audits.
What are they called?
Time audits.
Ooh, let's hear about what's a time audit.
So you essentially, throughout the day, you have a piece of paper with you, and every 15, 30 minutes, you write down what did you just spend that time doing. So you do it for about a week, and then you go back and you see how many minutes you spent doing certain things. And so then it's like, okay, well, I spent too many times over here. So that's when I actually started hiring. And so then I was like, okay, I need to hire a marketing manager because I spent way too many hours just doing marketing. And so then I hired that part out. Same with kind of like a transaction coordinator, or I just death scrolled. So maybe I need to put my phone on do not disturb, whatever it was. It's just very.
I just heard that term the other day, doom scrolling and death scrolling. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
You just.
Like you're just sucked in?
And you're just sucked in, and then you just wasted, God knows how many hours. of
Or
your
like you
day.
go to check something
Yeah.
on your phone, and next thing you know, you're somewhere else that you didn't even plan
Yeah.
on going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, those were super helpful for us when we started growing, and then being kind of when we were stretched. Then is seeing it's pretty much like a budget, but it's for your time and your minutes.
So on social media, what are your guys' goals on that? Because you obviously popped up on my feed, and I think like follower count you should be a lot higher just based on the number of like great content you have. And I'm not trying to say that to be insulting. I'm just like, your content is amazing. Like
Yeah.
you guys do an amazing job. Do you think it's because of the market that you're in? Maybe it's just like a smaller market.
It might be. I've had some marketing managers from like outside, like larger cities that have like come in to try and like kind of look at it and see, and they've grown it some. I know that I don't have like the time of day to go through and like comment on 1,000 different pages and like,
That doesn't work, by the way.
Yeah.
I paid all those guys
Yeah.
a lot of money,
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
That's really confirming.
Yeah, that's confirming. Because I'm like,
Because I did the same thing. I'm like, oh, you got to go through and do
Yeah.
that. The only thing that works is viral content, which is controversial. Saying something that's polarizing. My best video got 21 million views, and it was me asking a plumber a question. Like, do anything. I guarantee if you guys did some filming of the way you can fix stuff and the way you explain stuff, that stuff will take off big time. As well as if you guys incorporate the two of you guys into that. Maybe I know you don't want to, but that stuff. I mean, any stuff with construction related stuff. So many guys have so many different opinions, and so many women have different opinions on that. Or that stuff. Anything polarizing just hits.
Yeah.
21 and another one I had when I said 5 reasons why you always be broke. I did that video, and that was my first viral video, and it went like 5.3 million.
Yeah.
And it was me shooting it in a car wash. I had hired a social media coach, and it was like, yeah.
Yeah. The ones that I've done for investments have I always noticed did a lot better or got a lot of messages. A lot of like when we get new clients through the team, like I'll ask like, of course, like, how'd you hear about us? I would say 70% of them is social media. They're like, I see your videos, I see your listing videos. Like our team's known as being really marketing heavy.
You can crush the competition if you're on social now.
Yeah, and so that's been like a really big growth for us. Is they're like, you know how to market the houses correctly. You know how to make maybe this ugly house look really pretty.
I would buy a house from you.
Yeah.
Like, you are very good on camera. You're very good about showcasing the house. You're very good about just presenting it, putting a smile on. You could probably be like an actress if you wanted to be. Like, you're just really good on camera, and I don't think a lot of people have that ability to do that and show a house. It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been a big blessing through that with our sales for sure. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's been a thorn in me as to why we can't seem to grow like the follower count to like the goals that we did have.
Well, if you want, I happen to have a really good relationship with my TikTok coach. He's like a good friend of mine. I flew him out here from London, England.
Does he do like Instagram? Because I'm deleting TikTok.
So I could probably offer you some insight on that stuff.
Okay.
I'm pretty good about that. But all the things that he teaches apply through every social. So like TikTok, I grew and I hired him because that was the one I could grow at the time. But I haven't been able to go past 288,000. Like, I've been stuck there for a year. So it's just like but my YouTube has grown to 180,000, and that one was the hardest one to take off. And Instagram has been growing too. So TikTok I can't grow worth a damn on, but all these other ones that I was having a really hard time with, I think you got to do them all.
Yeah.
And then I think like delete them off your phone and have somebody else, you know what I mean? Put them on there. Ideally, in a perfect world, I'm never on my social media. It's just out there.
Yeah.
And I'm using it. The other thing that I would recommend for you guys, if it would help you, and I'm not trying to overstep or anything like this, but one thing that we just recently incorporated that works out extremely well, there's a thing called ManyChat. Have you heard of ManyChat? Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've seen people say comment the word X or DM me the word B. Mm-hmm. Well, what that does is it creates extreme engagement when you say comment. So if you're like, let's say you're doing a video and you're like, how much do you, I'm trying to think of how you could do it, but any way you could come up with a way for them to comment, and I'll give you this, or I'll send you this, like I'll send you a free home buyer's guide, like how to qualify for a USDA loan in Columbia, Missouri with 0% down, and I'll send you this sheet I created on Google Docs. What that does is once they comment it, you can create an automation on the back end through ManyChat. ManyChat will then do that function for you. So it'll send out the comment, it'll reply to the comment, and what that does is increases engagement, and that makes that video go viral.
Huh. I like that. All right.
I did not know that. Yeah.
It's a whole other conversation we can have.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if there's anything that I could do, to help you guys, because I spent a lot, I got obsessed. I'm an obsessive guy. So I was the one editing all the videos in the beginning, except for every single thing. I hired the TikTok coach. I flew my TikTok coach out here to present at one of our masterminds. So I really I wanted to understand everything about it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not the best, but I feel like I've got it down pretty good. What you need is you just need an editor. Like, so I hired, like, just to kind of tell you my background. So when I first got into it, like, my buddy is a guy named Ryan Pineda, who's got a really good following. And he was like, you know, he had only had a few rentals at the time, and I had 300, and he was starting to coach people, and I'm like, why are you doing that? And he started talking about his education and this and that, the other thing, and I was like, all right. And so he gave me his social media academy for free. He's like, just check it out. I got into it. He brought me on his podcast as the first thing, and then I just got obsessed because I want to win. Like, no matter what I'm doing, I want to, like, win. And so when I got into that, I hired coaches. There's a lot of misnomers about what you need to do, like commenting, like on the YouTube video, engage. You really don't need to do any of that stuff. Your video is just going to hit or it's not. There's nothing that you can do that's going to perpetuate that. But what I will say is, I get hit up, and I'm sure you get the same thing, by editors all the time. So what we're starting to build out is these promos, which is like, hey, if you want to edit my videos, because I get hit up with this all the time, if we're looking for great video editors, and then we'll create that automation through ManyChat where they can submit. So I'll give like a podcast video and say, hey, go edit this podcast video. If it gets views, we will hire you and pay you based on the number of views that you get. So the editing, I do believe, is a huge, huge thing, because the editor can understand the pattern interrupt and all of those other things, where like most of the reasons why our videos go viral is because of something I said that my editor knew to pick up on, and then put that out there the right way.
Gotcha.
So.
Gotcha. And that's not somebody like you found through Fiverr, or how did you?
Yeah, so I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit. So when I first started, I just put an ad on Indeed, looking for people, and this was when I was in Vegas. And so I hired 3 people. I hired one guy who he gave I had him put their reels, like their best editing together, and I liked his the best. He was the youngest guy. And then there was another guy that I hired who spoke the best and seemed like he was the best and ended up being the worst. And then there was a guy who came from a television background who I assumed would get to be the best. But the thing that I realized is that none of these guys actually knew anything besides the young guy. He actually understood the social media game. He understood how people react, because he's 23 years old. He was like 21 when I hired him, or he's 24 now. And so once I understood that, like, anybody can hold a freaking camera, like, number one, I got rid of a bunch of them, because I was having these, they weren't miking me up. And I took Graham Stephan's course, and he was like, audio is the most important part of your video. And our audio, we weren't even miking me up.
Yeah.
And I was following these guys' lead who went to film school and stuff. I'm like, you guys don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that editing is the most important. Audio is the most important. And anybody can hold a camera, and anybody can post that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's all you need. And the ManyChats and stuff like that can be big. They can feed your business, like, lead after lead after lead after lead after lead. Like, we do stuff like, they're called lead magnets all the time, where it's like, hey, comment the word script, and I'll send you my cold calling script on how I've bought over X number of dollars, and people will be like, script, and then they go into my funnel for my mentorship program, and it says, hey, you know, but it's just us getting free leads versus paying for them. Hey, thank you so much for tuning into our podcast right now. I am so happy that you are here. You are in the right spot to be getting inspired by other people that have just achieved their goals so that you can achieve your goals. Do me a favor. Leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us grow. And give us comments and feedbacks. We read those. It helps us grow. The most important person in this podcast is the listener, right? And so if you give us your feedback, it will allow us to create a better podcast for you. And make sure you enjoy the show and leave us a 5-star review. I had a few more questions for you. So tell me about your family right now. What's that look like?
It's me, Jesse, and Jet. But I mean, both of our parents we're very close too. So, I mean, I don't know. We're just learning how to be parents.
He's 7 weeks old, almost 8 weeks old now.
Yep. And so he started daycare this week, full time, and it's great. because we could not work with him in the house. And so I love him, but he likes to be held like a normal, probably 7-8 week old baby. So,
Yeah.
but it actually makes you appreciate your time with him a lot more.
Yeah.
When we're working all day and then we pick him up and then we're with him in the evening. I've learned that like the past couple nights since he's been in daycare, when I got home, I actually put my phone down for probably a change, which I never do. And so it kind of made me a little bit more protective of the time when I got home, to being with Jesse and him. So
That's awesome.
But it's
Now, are there future plans? Are you guys trying to go big and have like a farming family?
No.
Yeah. No specific plans. We're just gonna
No.
see how.
We said
it
in 2
turns out.
years,
Yeah.
we'll see how we feel about maybe a second one. But I was an only child. He's one of 3. And so, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I liked being an only child.
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah. We still prioritize our careers pretty well.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
right now, and
Yeah.
we're in a growth mode. Like.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, you guys are young. How
Yeah.
young are you?
30.
Yeah.
I'm 34.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm 46, so I was like, the more the merrier. And my wife was like, I'm 42. She had kids at 42, and she was like, we went through the NICU. Like, we're lucky to have kids. Like, I'm
Yeah.
done. The shop is closed.
Yeah.
And so I was
Yeah.
like, all right, well, I guess that's the end of that plan. So, did you guys watch the debate the other night? Can we go there?
We don't do politics.
Okay, good. All right. Well, sometimes that hits.
So,
Yeah, we can't really talk much about it.
yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. We are the ignorance is bliss when it comes to some of it. We know who we'll end up voting for and why from like a business standpoint, but we just don't get into the noise of it.
It could be overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming, and then it just makes you actually
Yeah.
hate it even
Well,
more.
I think big picture is like out of the choices, I don't really want to choose any of them.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just like I'm just gonna go with the
The one that aligns more with where we're at
Yeah.
and like our goals. But yeah, no, we watched like 5 minutes of the very first one with before, like when it was Biden and Trump. We turned it on and it was when they were, I don't know, they were bickering about something, and I just literally turned it off. I was like, I literally just can't. Like, I just can't. Like, so it makes you pretty sad.
Raising a young family in today's age, what are you guys most concerned about? Like with not the reason I asked the politics question is I feel like our nation is in a little bit of turmoil right now. Just
Yeah.
like both of our candidates may not be the strongest candidates. We've got a lot of problems. You know, they've just passed this new LLC law. They've passed they're hyper regulating everything. And this brings me to my next question, which is the NAR question. Like, they just completely flipped the real estate industry because these lawyers sued to make a bunch of money. And so can you educate our listening audience about what NAR just did and the new commission structures and the new rules?
Yeah, so what NAR did is like they completely rewrote, well, one, they ended up having to make us rewrite all of our contracts because of this, but they made it so where compensation is not readily available and accessible for an agent to actually know what they're paying. So commission was always negotiable. Most
Right.
people, what they're going to say is they're going to say, well, they made it so the sellers don't pay the buyer agency commission. No, false. They didn't make it so that it was that way. It's always been a negotiable term. It's just been standard practice that the seller paid for the buyer agency commission because the buyer is paying for their own down payment, their closing costs. They already have a lot of cash that they're bringing. So that's why the sellers already always paid the buyer agency commission, because there's more cash to be able to do so on that side. Well, NAR ended up coming out with essentially stating that, well, we're going to remove it from the MLS. And so they removed it from our MLSs. So if I go look at a house, I have no idea what they're actually paying. And then through that, they rewrote our contracts to essentially give us 3 different options from a seller. So when I'm like at a listing appointment.
Okay, this is great. Okay,
Yeah, there's
perfect.
3 different options that a seller can pick. You can pick, yes, I'm going to pay the buyer agency commission, and then you put in whatever percentage or flat fee. 2, consider at a later date, which means it's negotiable. So when we submit offers as the buyer, we're writing in how much compensation we're going to be asking for. Or the third one is no. So those were not on the initial listing agreement. It used to just be a line.
So I either pick, hey, I'm going to pay this amount of commission. B, it's negotiable. or C, I'm not paying nothing.
And so that's what the seller now has the option. So through everything that happened through NAR, that was the outcome of, so through the lawsuit, through all of that, that is now what realtors are going up with is this is our new listing agreement. And then here's what our buyer agency now has to state. And then through all that, like I said, then they take the compensation out of the MLS. So an agent has absolutely no idea what that house is paying for. So you now call the listing agent and you're like, hey, are you paying buyer agency? If so, how much? Because you can't market it anymore.
Yeah, because we sell a lot of our own properties. I haven't even adjusted to this yet, but I'm seeing all these offers come over and they're like putting the commission on it and stuff like that. And I'm like,
yep.
What's my strategy as an investor? Like, what is your strategy as an investor if you're flipping a house? Are you marketing? Can I get away with paying less commission? Because as a business guy, I know that we're both agents, and as an I would be like, hey. So first question is, what are you guiding your sellers to do? I guess that's the first question.
So I'm still guiding my sellers to keep with paying the buyer agency compensation. The reason being is because chances, especially with this having only gone in place back in August, is that this is really, really new and this is really fresh. So getting away from kind of what the status quo has been, in my opinion, is going to hurt their ROI. You're going to shrink your buyer pool. And we're not really supposed to say that, but it's the truth. Of
course you are, right?
Right. If you're not going to pay a buyer agency fee, well, how I tell my buyers, okay, if you can't pay the buyer agency fee because you're already paying your down payment and your closing costs and you don't have an extra whatever to pay me, well, then this house is deemed essentially out of budget. Just as if your budget was $300, I'm not going to show you a $350 house. It's the same respect on the buyer side. So I won't show your listing if you're not going to be paying the buyer agency fee because I know that my client can't afford it. And so now all of a sudden the buyer pool for that seller is significantly smaller. So frankly, they're probably going to get a lesser sales price, sit on the market longer, and actually lose money versus being able to make it open for more buyers.
But you can't advertise it.
No, you can't. Nope, you can't advertise it, but I can call the agent and ask what it is. And so this is the crappy part, is I call the agent, ask them, and I did this on the drive here. Because when I'm showing houses tomorrow, I'm like, hey, what's your buyer agency fee? And they're like, okay, Meg, I'm paying you 3%. I'm kind of taking their word, unless I have all the time in the world to send her a document that says, please sign, saying that you just told me 3%. I'm taking that agent's word in a text message or a phone call that she is paying 3% until I write an offer and put it in there. Because I can write the offer, put it in there, give it to her, and she counters back and says, oh, just kidding, 1%. I know what I told you yesterday. Because there's nothing on paper that I have today that promises that. That's where I'm worried about, is agent on agent, that getting sticky in the
Have
future.
you seen that happen?
Not yet.
Okay.
Most of the agents that do most of the production in my area,
Small community.
yeah, I mean, a lot of us, it seems to be most people are sticking with the sellers are paying buyer agency compensation. Do I think that the consider at a later date option might start being popular at some point? Yes.
It's a big change.
It is a good change. The pro is, it's like, if the buyer comes in and lowballs you, you're not tied to 3%. So you can use that as another negotiating factor of like, okay, well, yeah, sure, I'll take 20,000 less, but I'm only going to pay your agent, 2% instead of 3%. So I can see a lot of benefit for that.
Yeah.
Because it's not saying no. It's not saying I'm not going to pay it.
Right.
It's just saying it's negotiable, just like the sales price and everything else. So that one I can see in a few years becoming something that we're going to see a lot more of.
So, since you can't advertise it, you don't know what it is. I don't even notice people asking us, because we usually list with Freedom. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but since I was an agent, I don't really need to hire an agent. I feel like, because we have my same transaction coordinator for 17 years, and so we usually use like these flat fee MLS services, right? And they don't advertise that, but what I'm noticing on the offers that are coming over is like the agents putting it on the offer now. So coming from the buyer agency perspective, which is when you have that has been something that really never happened, right? There wasn't a lot of buyers agents that actually made their buyers sign an exclusive or anything like that. They just were trusting the people at their word, like, hey, you're going to work with me. Now I imagine that's probably a lot more prevalent.
Yeah. So pre the lawsuit, you were always supposed to have a buyer agency signed prior to showing a house. So kind of like how compensation was always negotiable, you were technically supposed to always have a buyer agency signed. I'll be completely transparent. I didn't.
Yeah.
And my personal reason being is a lot of times if that person just called me, I don't know who they are. I don't really frankly want to sign a paper that says I'm married to you and that I'm going to work with you until I actually get to know you. Because a lot of times in our industry, the first time I'm going to meet you is at that house.
Right.
And so I didn't pre this. Now because of this, we do have to, and you can get audited, which is the big part of.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, because they can go through our app of showing time. Say you showed this house on September 9th at 3 p.m. Send me the buyer agency for that person. I don't know if that's actually happened. I've heard it happen in larger markets.
Do they cap the commission?
Commission's never, it's always negotiable.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, because
Yeah.
I charge 9% sometimes.
Yeah.
I've charged, and I would pay 2.5
Yeah.
on some of these tough properties to sell. I'd be like, yeah, we'll do it for 9%.
Yeah. I mean, I had the conversation on the way here with a buyer who I'm showing tomorrow. Is I'm like, I have to send you this buyer agency. It's going to show a certain percentage. If that seller doesn't pay for it, then you are responsible for whatever that difference is. But how I tell all my buyers is you're going to know that before you ever step foot in that door, what that seller is offering. And I'm like, and that is what we are going to stick with.
Now, are you able to roll that in, Megan, with like the loan cost if they're not able to, or are they going to have to come out of pocket with all that money?
There is a way. I haven't done it yet. I haven't had an occurrence where you roll it into the loan, but there is a section in there where you can. But the compensation riders that you've been seeing, those what we have to attach those to all of our offers now.
It's the biggest shakeup in real estate
Yeah.
in ever. I didn't think it was actually going to go through when I saw the whole thing happening.
I didn't either.
There
Sure.
was
Yeah.
there was a lot of, I think, upset with NAR and it, like from an agent's perspective, and
Like, they didn't protect you guys.
that's what a lot of people feel like. I didn't dive into as many nitty gritties, I feel like, to say extremely confident one way or the other. But I think what really sucked is all the clickbait of, well, compensation is gone. Like, you know, we're not going to ever pay, or sellers are never going to have to pay the 6%. And that's what the actions that they took and the wording that came out, those clickbait articles, is now what the agents have this uphill battle against. And we have to essentially fight for what our compensation is. And it kind of gets this nasty rep of like, oh, well, that's their, you know, sales and that's their compensation. That's how they get paid. I'm like, yeah, that's how I make my money. That's how I pay for my family.
Yeah.
I always kind of tell people, I'm like, you know, from a discount agent perspective, I'm like, well, do you ever go to your dentist and tell your dentist, well, you can't make this, I'm not going to pay you that? Or do you try and negotiate with your dentist on what they're being paid? And most
Yeah.
people are going to say, well, no. I'm like, then why are we having this conversation? There's nothing different. I'm actually protecting your largest asset where they're protecting your teeth. Teeth are important, but that was a bad example. But I mean, it really is. It's kind of, it's the weirdest thing where it feels like it's the only industry where our income gets such this bad rep and this, I don't know, stigma. But any other industry, you don't see anybody complaining about their salary.
I think they do much better if they just had better agents, because I think the reason that gets a bad industry is because there's not a lot of people like you.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like these people who have sold one house a year and they don't know what they're doing, and they
Yeah.
maybe they're renters, they don't have never even bought a house,
Oh yeah.
and so I think that
I fully agree. They may make it harder for you to keep your license, and you make it more expensive to keep your license. And it needs to be a more rigorous ability of getting it, because there are, I think you need to sell a certain amount of houses a year to be able to keep your license. Who cares about the continuing ed? I can do it online and click through it in a matter of like 2 hours. It's the biggest joke.
I didn't even usually do mine.
Yeah, like, so, I mean, anyone can just sit there and do it for you.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, I think you have to sell a certain amount of houses. Because, like, if they didn't know these laws, if they were part-time and then they jumped into this right now, I mean, that could be a huge...
Do you think, Megan, that it has something to do with big tech? Do you think that this boils down, because we're noticing everything is being like, if you look at the top 3 companies in the country, the richest countries, or in the top 3 companies in the world are all based out of tech. Apple is a $3 trillion company, and then it goes Google and whatever else one, but they're all tech. And I believe because I used to be a Zillow Premier agent, and they've made it clear that they want to get that business. So do you think in the background that big tech, because they've been trying to break in through Redfin and through Zillow and through Realtor.com, and then you have Warren Buffett, who's he owns a lot of these companies. He owns Century 21 and all these other Berkshire Hathaway. Do you think that there's like a big tech play on this to kind of like take the agent out of the equation and make it so that people can buy directly from the websites?
I think there's always that motive, yes. Do I think it will work? And this could be me being actually optimistic for a change. No, because I think a lot of times when it comes to selling the house, it's such a personal, I've worked with people getting married. I work with people getting divorced, people passing away, and having some tech person at an 800 number is not going to be sitting in the living room with you, passing you tissues and saying, how can I help? And I think that aspect of real estate and that human aspect is never going to be kicked out and go away to a big tech, because it is such a personal sale. Well, even like Zillow right now, you think of how they do their leads. They did their leads by just giving you just something that's just a little bit warm, and you're supposed to go show it on a dime. Well, now you have to have a buyer agency signed. Well, Zillow, I don't know, but I have a feeling that their sales are going to go down with agents, because those people on Zillow are just going to click something, and now you're being told, oh, now you have to sign a buyer agency with this random person you just got randomly assigned to. I can tell you that most of them are going to say no, and why? Because why would they say yes?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. If somebody called me, hey, I'm going to show you this house, but I'm going to send you a legal document to sign right now before I open the door. I'm going to be like, no, thank you. I think Zillow is going to actually really hurt from this. Because of that, because that's been their whole business model is, oh, you're a little warm, let me kick it to an agent.
Yeah.
And they're going to just show it to you. But
Yeah, they want to take over the MLS. Spencer Ashcroft, I had lunch with him, and that's his whole goal, is to take over the MLS.
Really?
Yeah, be the national, which I think would be good, because there's so many different MLS services. It's like the data's available. That's the only thing I don't like, is like the best data is on the MLS. So if you can get that data, it's the best thing to have.
Right.
Kind of finishing up on a few more questions that I have. So what personal goals and ambitions do you guys have for the future?
Personal goals, we want to build our dream home.
Yeah.
We close on our land tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um,
It kind of starts that project.
Yeah.
For sure.
We don't normally have a lot of personal goals like that. And so that's kind of our first big one as a family, is doing that. But
Tell me a little bit more about that, because I did that out here, and that was super exciting. We did it. Me and my wife did it together.
yeah.
I'm sure you're going to be heavily involved in that, Jess.
Yeah, probably. It's a 5-acre tract right outside of Columbia. It's close to where we live now, where we like that area, and it's in between my hometown Boonville and Columbia. So it's like I can be at both. We own rentals in both towns, so I can be in between.
Awesome.
That and but yeah, it's I don't know. It reminds me of me growing up on a farm. Like, this is the closest thing I get without being on a farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys planning on like chickens and?
No.
She wants them. I'm like, no.
I want
done
a
with that.
horse.
Yeah. I'm like,
don't
no.
You want to ride a horse?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
It's
want it like out in the pasture walking. They're
She
pretty.
she has full access to horses now on our family farm, and she won't go ride them now.
Because they're in Boonville.
Yeah.
Well, you like to look at them.
I like to
Yeah.
look at it.
We have a neighbor like that. I have a neighbor like that. She's got 3 horses, and I've never seen anybody ride them.
No, I like to take care of it and
Yeah.
like look at it. I think it'd be.
I want to ride them.
I
I love riding horses. That's like the funnest thing in the world. So do you have any plans like to like grow farming, like kind of get that healthy home vibe, or?
No, I think it's just.
I will say, like, for Jet, our son's sake, like, getting him on the farm, I think at a younger age would be good. Like the family farm I grew up on. Just put him to work and just build that work ethic.
When did you start doing that?
Oh, 5 years old. Like, I
What
don't
were you
know.
doing at 5 years old?
I think my dad was just I do remember a specific instance where my dad put me in an old farm truck. It was a manual. It had a clutch and everything like that. And he taught me the clutch and the gas and the brake.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see over the steering wheel. He's like, just go straight and go all the way down to the end of that field. That's what he told me to do. Yeah. So I don't know how old I was, but like I couldn't see over the steering wheel.
Yeah.
And I could touch the pedals, and that was it. So
No.
yeah.
Jet's gonna have plenty of grass to mow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So that will be. But I would say for our personal, that's a big personal goal, is to be able to like actually like start building our forever, because we've like lived in our flip houses.
Oh.
Yeah. And so like we've never actually like spent the money on us. Like we went on our first vacation last year,
Yeah, since our
Where'd you go?
honeymoon. Yeah.
Antigua,
Where is that? I know it's an island.
Caribbean.
Caribbean area. Yeah.
Was
yeah.
it nice?
Yes.
I-
Yeah. So that was
I
like the
would tell
first
people to go,
time
for sure.
since like
Yeah.
our honeymoon we went on a vacation. And so yeah, it's like we're now getting to the point where it's like, okay, we can actually like enjoy what we built a little bit. And so I think that's kind of like our next personal ones. And like I said, our work ones are to continue to grow the income in that side, because I don't always want to sell 100 houses.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Don't blame you.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun when I'm like 70 years old.
You guys want to go more on the investing side?
That's our long term. That's our
We want
retirement.
that, like, I heard a term the other day, but your income floor, essentially, is what they called it. It was like, just, this is the minimum amount of income we can get off of rental properties every year. It's like, and if we can, like, live on that, and, like, so we'll never stop working.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't see you guys.
no,
as
but,
those
like,
people.
what I think our motto is, like, work because we want to, not because we have to.
Yeah.
And to just help people because we want to help them, and, you know, like, it's not going to be money motivated at that point. It's just, we really want to help our
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah.
So tell me about the coffee shop, because that got brought up several times. What was the coffee shop all about? Who came up with the idea? How did it work? The only reason I ask that is I'm about ready to buy a strip mall, and I'm trying to think about putting like a Scooter's coffee. I don't want to run my own, trust me on that, but I know that.
I would
do
tell
it.
you not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was more me. It was roasting. I was roasting the coffee. So I bought a roaster, like the whole farm background and machinery, all that stuff. Like I stuck a roaster in the first house we ever bought. I put it down in the basement and hooked it to our dryer vent because it needed exhaust out. So like I was roasting coffee when we weren't doing laundry. And yeah, and then I just started like a
Good
very
job,
long.
Mom.
Yeah.
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 I would come home and I would be like, damn it, Jesse.
Yeah, it started as a hobby, but I just liked it. And
Do you
yeah.
like coffee? I mean, you got a cup right there.
I mean, yeah, like I can't say coffee was really a passion before that point. I don't know. I just figured out you could roast it yourself, and I just got intrigued by
So
it.
you're buying the beans?
Yeah, buying the raw burlap sacks and
Where are
everything.
you buying them from?
Actually, a place out of Kansas City. It's Anthem Coffee Imports was the name of it. But yeah, they do all the legwork to get it over the border. Like
Okay.
they come from Peru, Colombia, all over Ethiopia, everything. But
Okay.
yeah, I buy burlap bags of it, and yeah, we
Is
roast
there a
it.
certain thing like so? The coffee bean is the coffee bean, right?
Yeah.
Does it? I mean, does it make it better if it comes from here or comes from there? So the roasting is like a key component to making a good coffee.
It is, yeah. So coffee is agriculture. So just like with farming, like you can have a good crop or a bad crop. So you kind of have to watch that each year. It's seasonal. So if a country's going through a drought, you're not going to have a great crop that year. So things like that. And then also the roasting side, like it's all farm related, and now that I'm thinking about this out loud, but I always compare it to like cooking a steak. You can go from rare to well done. That's same with the coffee bean. You can change the flavor of it just by how you roast it and everything.
So kind of what was your deal with the coffee bean? Like what was your
Yeah.
like you got okay, so you started roasting the coffee beans, like, and was there like hey, I'm gonna sell this certain brand a certain way, or what was your thought? And then you actually made like a coffee shop.
There was a coffee shop in the end of it all, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
how did that? So how did the coffee bean roasting? Where did that take you to the coffee shop? What was the in between of all that?
Yeah, so I was essentially wholesaling coffee to other coffee shops, grocery stores, things like that. So I was getting coffee on the shelves. That was all my goal was. I wasn't brewing anything. I was just roasting it and sending it out the door, kind of like warehouse style.
Okay.
And then eventually we got to where we opened our own coffee shop and things like that. But yeah, where I kind of fell in was like craft small batch roasting. And if you go back to that rare, well done scale, I was kind of that medium rare to medium roasted coffee. Just to me, that's where like the most flavor was, and it wasn't tasting burnt and bitter, which you get a lot in these large big box coffee stores, things like that. So that's where we pushed it.
And was there like a plan with that? Like how did you get into the whole just like idea of coffee?
Yeah, I mean, there was a point in our lives where like it was like that was going to be my long-term play.
I was thinking that's just because of the way you started, because I thought it was just like, oh, we had a barista coffee shop, but I didn't realize you started.
Oh yeah, no, we were like, I mean, what we were in like 15 grocery stores, like up until we opened the coffee shop, and then the coffee shop was a whole other animal. That's just a different business compared to the wholesale side of it. And so like when both those were going on, I kind of had like 2 full-time jobs. I was not only stocking grocery stores and other coffee shops, but keeping my other coffee shops.
So you're the guy selling it and stocking the shelves?
Yeah, I was doing. Yeah, oh yeah, I knew all the people in the back. I was going to the loading docks of grocery stores, stocking shelves, things like that too.
Now, do you get paid once you stock the shelves or once they sell?
It was when I brought in the door. They paid me a flat rate on it, and they marked it up on the shelf. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. And the coffee shop aspect of things, how did that come around?
I think
It was more marketing.
yeah, like we were kind of. We were behind closed doors the whole time. We were in the warehouse, like a back of a kitchen, working, roasting coffee for a while. Like people knew of us, but not to the full potential of it all. Because like usually, like a Starbucks, obviously everyone knows what Starbucks is, but like because there's one on every corner, everywhere. And like for us, we never had that stable. It was like we were in the back of some building of another business, so we never had a sign up anywhere. It was just like how we got our name out was I was at grocery stores on the weekends giving out free samples of coffee. That's how I got our name out.
Okay.
Yeah. And we just it was really hard to keep that afloat. We're like, we need a coffee shop to really blow this thing up.
And what happened with the coffee shop?
And
And the business, I guess.
Yeah, so we ended up selling. It got to a point where so the wholesale side very profitable.
Right.
We did very, very well at that, but the coffee shop was taking up all my time, and it was pretty much eating all the profits of the wholesale business. Because there was
it's
multiple
employee intensive.
Yeah, there's a lot more overhead and a lot more time on my side, but it also got to where lost my train of thought. So like selling a cup of coffee is just like very different than selling a bag of coffee. So like cup of coffee, like I can make like $1 profit on that. A bag of coffee, I'm making like $8 on a bag. Like, so it was way less units, more money, essentially, is what was happening. I could do it much faster. And the 2 big mistakes I made with the coffee shop, I didn't have a drive-through, and I didn't have a large seating area either, because people want to go sit down. So like I was basing it around the wholesale business. Most of it was for
So
manufacturing.
you learned a lot.
Yeah, I did learn it. Yeah, on that side.
So you were like, okay, I didn't do a drive-through. We lost opportunities there, and then people to come sit and chill.
Yeah.
Aren't doing that either.
Right.
And so eventually you just decided I'm not passionate enough about it anymore.
Yeah, it was.
We
Frankly,
also
she
got-
was getting really successful at real estate, and
We both weren't working though together anymore.
That's true.
He
Yeah.
was extremely busy in coffee. I was
Yeah.
extremely busy in real estate. And when we started both of them together, we always were working together.
and
And like, so then we weren't.
Yeah.
And it just
And I'll say
didn't
another
become a
thing too.
priority.
Like, we started building our rental portfolio while that coffee shop was open too. So like, I got that bug really going at that point. Like,
And
wait a
then you
minute.
got this
Yep.
thing over here, and you're like, you're better.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you looked at
Exactly.
the margins and
Yeah.
it was like,
Yeah, it's just like man,
one of
like,
these makes a lot more sense now.
and just fortunately there was a buyer for that business. The wholesale piece they kept the wholesale piece open. Like when we sold the business, the coffee shop closed, and they kept the wholesale side going. So it kind of reverted back to what I originally had at the end of it all.
But those are important lessons to learn, like
Yeah.
like going through it. Probably you don't regret any of it, I imagine, just
Yeah.
because it's like a part of your journey, part of your story, right?
I learned so much about business in that too, and like I brought it over into the rental properties and like managing our own properties, just the financials of it, and yeah, for sure.
My last question is, you guys have had such success with real estate, and you just mentioned that like it kind of changed where you were going and where you're at, and I feel the same way about real estate. I'm extremely passionate about it. I believe that it could change anybody's lives as an investor, as an agent, all of those things. So my question to you guys is, for people who are listening right now and they're trying to think about getting into real estate, what advice would you have for them?
Just do it. Don't, like, that sounds so cheesy, but do it. Like, don't let fear stop you, because there's always a way. Our first rental we did buy with like 20% down, but interest rates were also 2-3%. But then after that, we were able to buy properties with no money down. So we just had to get creative. We just had to kind of figure it out. So there was a way to get in the door through the investment side, where you didn't have to have a copious amount of money to go buy a property. And then from the real estate agent side, I mean, I was scared. I mean, like literally, like I said, I was 23 years old. I was like, nobody is going to trust this girl from college to with their largest asset. And I did. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I think I cut my hair short like shortly after I got my license, because I looked like a college girl still. I cut my hair short, changed all my clothes, acted like I was 5 years older, and then just acted like I was successful.
Fake it till you make it.
Really. I mean, it was like, and so both of them, you just had to do it and try. And there's always a way. And whatever the excuse is, in my opinion, that comes into your mind to stop it is just that. It's an excuse. It's going to stop you from being able to kind of grow and get into whatever aspect of real estate that is kind of in your heart and in your mind.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just do it.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. You're going to come up with a bunch of excuses. Everybody's got fear.
Yep.
And then it just goes away the more you do it.
Yep.
Right. And I will say too, like getting in real estate at any time is a good time. But if I could go back, like I would tell anyone going to college or just between that like early 20s, that just like buy a house that needs work and live in it and fix it up. And then you can sell for a lot more money later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like that is a super easy thing. It gives you a house to live in, and you can fix it up, and you learn a lot while you're in. You can screw up in your own house and not worry about other people.
House hack it.
Yeah.
Rent it out to your buddies in college.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or if you buy duplex, that's even better. And things like that. It's just
You guys being in a college town, do you guys like? I always look at the college towns like I could make a lot of money like just owning bars and owning all these other things like that college kids like. You mentioned you went to Alabama, Megan, and every time I go to Baton Rouge, because I go to LSU, I got investments in Mississippi, I got investments in Louisiana, and so we'll go to a Tiger game, and I'm looking at these places, and these bars are just making money after money because all these college kids just want to come and drink. And then I've been down in Lawrence, Kansas, talking to my banker who's out of Lawrence, and he tells me about a lot of their clients who have all of these bars and all these things that make money. Do you guys ever think about getting into like student housing or any sort of commercial thing related to the amount of schools that are in that area?
I'm not.
Yeah, like, I mean, if the numbers work, we almost bought a 5-plex last year. That would have been great for student housing, but it just didn't work because of the property itself, not because of student housing. But so I think if the numbers work, we'll do it. But like, there's a lot of like, Columbia's been capitalizing since of student housing. Like, not only universities have dorms, but there's some like larger apartment buildings that have gone up in that town in the last 5 years. It's almost become saturated in student housing. I'll say that.
Awesome.
Yeah. And from a bar standpoint, my thing is, it's just always been like, I don't want to be responsible from something that is like the hours that bar is open. I do not want to be on call and responsible for that.
Yeah.
And it was the same with the coffee shop.
Yeah, it's like after the coffee shop, I'm done with the food and beverage.
Yeah, like he was out of milk, and he would have to go pick up milk at like 4 a.m. Like it just something like
fun. I'm a business owner.
Yeah,
which is
like,
I was on
Going to the grocery store to get milk.
Yeah, like, I was on a delivery route for milk, and the delivery guy wouldn't show up, and it's like, okay, well, I gotta go to the grocery store and like buy 18 gallons of milk.
Yeah.
This is my life now. Look at that.
Yeah, fun. I'm a business owner. You
Yeah.
guys didn't see this part of me like going to the grocery store and buying 18 gallons of milk.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I really appreciate you guys coming on. How do people follow your guys' story, your journey?
Yeah, so on Instagram, you can find me at Megan Walters, and you're at Jesse Walters. Yeah.
Sure.
Is that?
You're never on it?
You can find me through Megan's stuff. Yeah, she'll usually tag me in things.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
She's
are
way
you,
more
are, you, are you trying to go harder on the social or just harder on the...
I'm
I
trying
need
to get him
Yeah,
to.
like I will say yes. It is a very big wall for me to climb over for whatever reason.
Well, you guys work well together, so it's obvious. You guys said everything you guys have done better together.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine the social media would be the same. And I'll tell you one thing, Jesse. Guys have so many opinions about construction. The minute you start saying why you do something, there's going to be 1,000 guys out there like, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
Just do a video of how you do plumbing.
Yeah,
That
true.
always hits.
Yeah, so I'm a
He's
horrible
awful at
plumber.
plumbing.
So like,
What's that?
He's awful at plumbing.
oh yeah, I've learned to just
I should just like record all of our toilets that are currently hissing in our house.
yeah.
Like every 10 minutes, all of a sudden you just hear, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so yeah, I could show a lot of people what not to do with plumbing, and that might take off, you know, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, plumbing's everything's a skill set, right? You gotta kind of master it. I couldn't plumb. I couldn't do trim carpentry. I could do some landscaping, and
Yeah.
and hopefully the plants will live.
Yeah.
So, well, I appreciate you guys coming out here. I appreciate you guys making yourself available. Your story is inspiring for so many people out there that are trying. You're fresh, pretty fresh, and you're kicking ass. 106 sales so far this year is amazing. As somebody who's sold a lot of real estate, I can tell you that is hard to do in any market, especially one that's 100,000 people. So you should be very, very proud of yourself. You guys are doing extremely well, and I can tell there's a very symbiotic relationship, and I appreciate you guys coming in.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
No problem. Guys, make sure you give us a 5-star review. Make sure you get started investing in real estate, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Peace. You know, one of the accomplishments I'm most proud of on social media is the 150 episodes that we've done on the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. The Millionaire Mentorship Podcast is exactly that. It's a bunch of guests who have achieved a financial status and people like yourself that you can learn from. We have entrepreneurs, we have real estate investors, businessmen, digital marketers, politicians, local people, and national people whose stories will inspire you. You need to check it out and make sure you give us a 5-star review when you do. All you got to do is comment the word podcast, and I'll link it to it right now.